Every NFL draft, there is always a handful of players that you run the risk of either being very, very good or very bad. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about 8 NFL draft prospects who I believe are boom or bust players. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're new and going to enjoy. Let's hop into it. And we are going to begin at number 8 with Jacob Rodriguez. A few little notes here. These are in no particular order. And when I say bust, we have different interpretations of what a bust is. A bust may mean just being an okay football player, depending on where you get drafted. That might be termed as a bust. And a really good football player doesn't mean you have to be a Pro Bowler. It just means you have to be somebody that plays for a while. So just want to throw those little caveats out there. Let's talk about Jacob Rodriguez because, man, he's flying up draft boards and for good reason. But he's also a very risky player. You can see right here, 6'1", 231 pounds, ran a 4.57 at the combine. You can see the numbers here are just ridiculous. 122 total tackles, a sack, 10 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions, 6 pass deflections. I mean, this is somebody who straight up, by the way, there should be 7 forced fumbles. He had 7 forced fumbles in 2025. We'll update that very soon. But this is a guy in Jacob Rodriguez who, man, to start off the process, like before all the combine, the Senior Bowl, stuff like that, everyone liked Jacob Rodriguez, but it was kind of like, yeah, he's good at college, but is it going to be able to translate over to the, the different Senior Bowls and combines, things like that? Because there was legitimate questions about his overall size, stature, and athletic profile. It's undeniable the fact that he was a playmaker in college, and that will be probably what his calling card will be at the NFL level. But there was a lot of just conversations about whether or not that size, that build that he was, would be able to, go out there and run a 4.57, which he did at the combine. So now we're sitting here after he had an incredible Senior Bowl and a really, really, really good combine. And by the way, it sounds like he's a really good guy, and it sounds like he's going to test very well in the interviews. So you're looking at a guy that's now starting to get brought up in first round conversations. If not first, then like somewhere on day 2, usually early round 2. So we're now looking at somebody who, after the 2025 season was over, there was conversations about him being a top 100 player. But now we're in a situation where it's like he might be a top 50 player in this class. You can see just how far he's risen up people's draft boards and things like that. And you can see us here at first and 10. We have him ranked at 55. So a big time jump. And by the way, he was more like the 70s, 80s to start off this process. But after going back to watch the film and now seeing him at the Senior Bowl and Combine, I mean, he's undeniable. But that also runs the risk of, are we starting to overdraft Jacob Rodriguez? Because his game is very dependent on being that playmaker. Because he's not the strongest, he's not the fastest, he's not the most athletic. He's probably not even the smartest linebacker in this class. I'm not calling him dumb, but like Sonny Styles is a freak, right? But if you're going to take Jacob Rodriguez with a top 50 pick, which is a premium pick in this class, you're going to run the risk of drafting a linebacker for what may end up being somebody who may not be able to translate that ability to take the ball away. Now, if he gets to the pros and he averages 1 or 2 interceptions a year, multiple forced fumbles, and is a productive tackler, then yeah, that's probably worth the pick. But you again run the risk of, what if he's not able to get those same turnovers that he's had in college now to the pros? It's a risky pick. I still love Jacob Rodriguez. He's either going to be really, really good or just kind of like a mediocre linebacker. So yeah, man, he's every fan's favorite linebacker for a reason, and I'm so excited to see what he can do at the NFL level. Moving over to number 7, we have Keldrick Falk. Keldrick Falk is the legitimate definition of boom or bust, right? He's kind of in the same vein of a Mykel Williams and Shamar Stewart from last year. Granted, I do actually think Keldrick Falk's a better prospect than Shamar Stewart. Not so sure if I'd say he's better than Mykel, but if I'm comparing them as prospects, I would gladly take Keldrick Falk over Shamar Stewart. Not saying Stewart can't be good. It's just from what I've seen, I like Keldrick's tape a lot more. He's a massive individual, 6'5" and 7/8, 276 pounds. He was, I think, at like 280 during the season. 82-inch wingspan. Not the most productive guy, 27 total tackles, only 2 sacks. I think the year prior he had like 8 or 9. 5 tackles for loss, 4 pass deflections, which with those arms, you'd expect him to. Went to the combine, had a 35-inch vert and 9'9" broad jump. He is, to me, the definition of a legitimate work in progress that if he can hit his ceiling, and by the way, he's only 20 years old, this guy could be great, man. But at the same time, we've had these conversations before about not just in last year's class, but in years prior, when you're taking a high upside pass rusher, you don't know if they're going to hit their ceiling, right? You just don't know that. Just because they have this great length and size and explosiveness and things like that doesn't mean they're going to be, 10 sack a season guys. And I also want to set the expectation straight for Keldrick Falk. I think when people think about, oh, I don't want my team to take Keldrick Falk, it's because they're going to say he doesn't get sacks, right? He's going to be somebody that's going to average around 5 sacks a season, which to me is not that bad. Like if I'm Keldrick Falk, I'll take 5 sacks a season, especially, within a specific role on a defense. For me, the boom on Keldrick Falk is, can he be somebody who can get 5 to 10 sacks a season, be really, really stout against the run, and be, this flexible piece that can play inside and outside? That's where I think you're getting really good value for Keldrick Falk, especially in the later first round, early round 2. The bust portion of Keldrick Falk is, what if he's never able to get any sort of sack productivity, because let's call it what it is, he's very raw as a pass rusher right now, and that run stuffing ability almost gets kind of nullified by the fact that he's such a bad pass rusher, right? And there's gonna be some teams out there, and hopefully they don't draft Keldrick Falk, but there might be a team that does it, that really needs pass rush production, and they're just probably not gonna get that from Keldrick Falk. You look at like a San Francisco, for example, who took Micah Williams last year, and then Nick Bosa went down. So they're leading, their best pass rusher on that team was probably Micah Williams after Nick Bosa went down. I think they brought in a few guys who did a couple nice job, but I mean, that pass rushing unit was horrible. And so Michael, who also got hurt in the season, but he was asked to pick up the pieces, and he wasn't ready to do that. He's not Nick Bosa. It's the same thing with Keldrick Falk. He should not be your go-to pass rusher, right? You should have a good pass rusher next to him, and he's just more so asked to play, a flexible run stuffing role. But again, I mean, nobody wants to draft this guy, at least within the fan community. He will get drafted somewhere in the top 50. It wouldn't surprise me if it's round 1. I think he's a super talented guy, but he is the boom or bust guy. He could be really good, or he can just kind of be another body. That's kind of the room of where Keldrick Falk lands. Next up at number 6, give me Chris Bell, the Louisville wide receiver. Another one of these guys where he's kind of, to me, the Keldrick Falk of the wide receiver position. Chris Bell, I'm talking about. Because Chris Bell is a big dude, 6'2", 222 pounds. He is a dense built guy who unfortunately has a torn ACL. So he probably will be ready for the start of the season, because the injury, I think, happened in like September, November, but still. But he has, as I said here, ideal size for an X wide receiver. And you're looking at a guy who I think would have probably ran about a 4.4 or a 4.3 at the combine had he actually tested and did not get hurt. So what you're seeing in Chris Bell is a freakish physical and athletic profile. The problem is, he's not the most nuanced receiver, right? A lot of his production comes from slants, comes from digs, comes from, screens or RPOs, things to get him the ball in space and let him work. But as a pure football player, somebody who can run routes, win these contested catches, things like that, just have reliable hands, it's a work in progress in Chris Bell. Kind of reminds me a little bit like Jonathan Mingo in some ways, where with Mingo, it's like, yeah, he's got good length, good size, a good frame to him, but he was not very nuanced as a player, right? He was used mainly as like screens and things like that. Get the ball in space, let him work. Kind of same thing with Chris Bell in a couple ways, where, I mean, get the ball in space, he can make magic happen, but with a frame of 6'2", 222, you want to be a bit more nuanced as a player. Not to say that he doesn't have anything going for him, right? He can win some contested catches. He has a couple routes on tape that are like, okay, let's see if you can do that a bit more consistently. It's just right now, he has a couple drops on tape. He struggles to get off press man coverage, which I'm not too worried about. The NFL doesn't do a ton of that anymore. And just route running nuance is not really particularly great for him. But if he's able to maximize his potential, because to me, he's one of the most talented guys in this class, straight up and down, I think he's so unbelievably talented. He's got such a high ceiling, but also a massive floor. I mean, you're talking about somebody where it's like, he's either going to be a top 20 receiver in the league, or he's going to be, I don't know, buried in depth charts, used as a gadget guy. So I'm hoping he goes to a team where he's not asked to be the number 1 option, which I don't think he will. I think he's going to be more of probably a day 2 pick, especially after the injury. But I would love to see him go to a team that already has a couple established weapons that they trust, and they're just looking at Chris Bell to be a bit of a gadget guy early while he's learning and becoming a bit more filled out within the position. I think he could be really good, but again, the floor and ceiling is quite different from each other. Next up at number 5, we have Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle for Alabama. Another one of these guys that it feels like there's a lot of people who don't want their team to take this guy, and I can kind of understand why in some senses, but I also think Caden Proctor's gonna be a good football player. It's just that he may not be a good football player for all we know, which is why he's in this video. Caden Proctor is a big ass dude. I mean, point blank simple. You can see it here, 6'6", almost 6'7", 352 pounds. He was up to like 365 or something mid-season. Massive wingspan, big arms. Ran a 5.21, which is not great, but I think for somebody who's about 6'7", 350 pounds, it's not the worst. 184 10-yard, 32.5-inch vert, 9-foot 1-inch broad jump, 25 on the bench. He's got a lot of qualities to him. Obviously, a super talented guy, highly sought after in college, went to Alabama. And, honestly, at Alabama, he's gotten better every single year, but it hasn't been the monstrous step that we've been expecting for him to take because, year one, he was good. Year two, he was fine. Year three, he was also good, but it was also kind of a slower start for him where early on, it was kind of like, he's not playing as good as we thought he was. Then by the end of the season, he was really starting to kick some ass. Caden Proctor has to keep the weight down. If he can stick to about 345, 350 around that range, which I don't love. I like my offensive lineman around that 315 to 320 range. But, if you're Caden Proctor, and that's going to be the name of your game, being how much bigger, stronger, and freakier you are than some of these guys, I guess it's fine. But, it does come with some limitations for sure. The reason why he is one of these, boom or bust guys is just because of that size, right? It's tough for somebody who is 350 pounds to succeed at the NFL level. I mean, we've now seen it multiple times here with Mekhi Becton, Evan Neal, J.C. Latham, who hasn't been particularly great so far in his young career. And these are all, Mekhi Becton wasn't, but, obviously Evan Neal and J.C. Latham were also Alabama guys. So you can really start to see the connections there and why people are like, I struggle with the Proctor pick because of the Alabama, because of the size, because of the foot speed concerns. They're legitimate. I do think Proctor is athletic enough for his size to where I think he can work in the NFL level, but I would like to see him play guard a little bit too. If he doesn't work at tackle, I think you can try him at guard. The problem is it's kind of the same conversation with Evan Neal and J.C. Latham, where it's like, can you make that move to guard before his confidence is completely shot and he's just no longer a good player? Look at Evan Neal, for example. He was unbelievable in college, a top 10 pick. Giants tried him at right tackle. He was horrendous. And they kicked him inside to play guard after like 3 years of tackle. And he wasn't very good at guard either. And his confidence was clearly shot. So we'll see about Caden Proctor, man. The boom element is that, okay, this 350-pound behemoth can move people around in the run game and should have enough foot speed to survive at tackle. Or we can try him at guard and he'll be a good guard. The problem is, what if we have another J.C. Latham? What if we have another Mekhi Becton, who also got one good year of good play out of him, but still? Or Evan Neal. And that's the massive concern for Caden Proctor. I think he's talented enough to be really good, but we'll have to wait and see. Moving over to number 4, I have Kenyon Sadiq. So I've made it very clear, not just on this channel, but also on my podcast, First and 10. Also check out the website, firstand10.net. That I'm not the biggest Kenyon Sadiq fan in the world. And I think my reasoning for this is that I am very much so leaning on him not being as good as what people think he is, but there's a clear reason why there's teams so unbelievably interested in this guy. It is difficult to find tight ends with this physical profile, with this athletic profile. It just simply is. 6'3", 241 pounds. He's a really good receiving threat, 51 catches, 560 yards. Would have loved to see him honestly be used a little bit more. But look at these numbers, dude. A 4.39 40, a 1.54 10-yard split, a 43.5-inch vert, a 26 bench press. I think that's more than Caden Proctor. I mean, this guy's a freak of nature from a physical and athletic standpoint. I mean, it's hard to find guys like this. But we've also seen multiple times in the NFL that the tight end position is not really a position where you have to be the most physically or athletic gifted player in the world. Look at who the best tight ends right now in the league are. It's Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Jake Ferguson. Even like maybe you want to throw like a Dalton Kincaid in there. What do all those guys have in common besides being white? Throw that away. They're not the most athletically gifted guys in the world. Now, some are a bit more athletic than others, but what they're really good at is they're technical. They're really refined for their position. Like George Kittle's a great athlete, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's a good athlete, but he's not running a 4.39. He never has. None of those guys are. So that's the concern. But it's also like, okay, what if you now take somebody who can become technically refined and also add on 26 on the bench press, 4.39, 43.5-inch vert? That's where it's like, holy shit, this guy could be freaking awesome. Again, for me, I'm a bit more hesitant on him just because I don't love those type of profiles. And right now, Kenyon Sadiq is not the most nuanced route runner in the world. I think he needs to better understand leverage in DBs and linebackers. And I don't think as a blocker, he really offers as much as like Kittle or Laporta or some of those guys. I do think he's competitive and I think he tries, but he's not technically refined there. So you have this kind of ball of clay in Kenyon Sadiq that isn't like a total ball of clay. Like, he's pretty fleshed out in a lot of different ways, but there's still some room to grow. And it's like, can I afford to spend a top 15 pick on this guy? Because he's being talked about in top 15 conversations. And I just struggle to get there, especially when you look at like the OJ Howards and, I hate to say it, Kyle Pitts, who, by the way, is actually starting to develop into being a good tight end. He's kind of finding his footing, but, still took him a while. These athletic, physical freaks that just don't pan out. Sometimes they do. I mean, look at Vernon Davis. He panned out pretty well. So we'll have to wait and see, man. I'm excited for Kenyon Sneak to make it to the league. I think he's very dependent on where he does end up going. If he goes to a Los Angeles and works with Sean McVay, he could be unbelievable, which you've heard some buzz around that. So we'll wait and see. I think he could be good or he can be really bad. Who knows? Next up at number 3, we got Arvell Reese, the linebacker slash edge rusher for Ohio State. Really solid chance that we're talking about potentially the number 2 pick in this class. And worst case scenario, let's say he's not going number 2. He's definitely going somewhere in the top 10. I mean, we all know that. We're talking about a top 10 player that we don't quite know what position he's going to play at the NFL level. You can see here, physical profile is unbelievable. 6'4" 1/8", 241 pounds, a 4.46 40-yard dash, 1.58 10-yard split. Very productive season, splitting time at linebacker and playing off the edge. 69 total tackles, nice. 34 solo, 6.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 2 pass deflections. I mean, this guy is uber productive. And I do want to say this. I think no matter what position he plays, he can be very good. Whether it's an edge rusher, letting him develop there and figuring out how to get after the quarterback, or as an off-ball linebacker. I think he can be very, very good in either position. The problem is going to be a team has to put him in one spot and let him succeed or fail there. Point blank simple. Now, I do believe that there is, some flexibility with him. You can play him a little bit as off-ball linebacker and off the edge while, especially if you think that he's just a better off-ball linebacker right now than edge rusher, you can give him a couple snaps a game just flying off the edge, let him work on a couple tools and things like that while playing more full-time at linebacker while you're trying to win or something along those lines. But that's the concern. I mean, it's very difficult. I know that people want to make the conversation about the Micah Parsons, and how he was able to translate from a linebacker to an edge, or a Jalen Walker for the Atlanta Falcons. It's very difficult, though. It doesn't just automatically mean that because Micah was able to do it, because Abdul Carter was able to do it, because Jalen Walker was able to do it, that all of a sudden Arvell Reese is going to do it. It's the same, concerns we had. And by the way, like, Abdul Carter spent a full season off the edge. Micah Parsons, I mean, he actually converted from linebacker to edge in the NFL, which tells you how freaky he is. The best comparison really for Arvell would probably be Jalen Walker. And Walker's a dang good player in his own right. But that's kind of the mold you're looking at here with Arvell, because he did split time. And actually towards the end of the season with Ohio State, he was actually more of an off-ball linebacker. But if you're going to be spending what looks to be the number 2, number 3, number 4 pick in the class, wherever he does end up going, you are talking about a guy that, needs some development as an edge rusher right now. Yeah, he shows some bend around the corner. He's got freaky athleticism, explosiveness, but isn't refined at all in the position. Doesn't have the tools, doesn't have the natural feel for the position. I mean, we saw at the pro day, when you look at the bag drills, Arvell's kind of tiptoeing while Ruben Bain's just flowing out there. Arvell can get there. He's got the athletic profile, but he's got to learn how to do it. But if you're also going to play him at off-ball linebacker, like, he's not the best in coverage, right? So I don't know. The ceiling for this guy is, okay, we might have just found our Jalen Walker, Micah Parsons, that type of guy, right? A top player in this league. The con is, well, what if he ends up kind of being this positionless guy that's not really great at either? Like, he's good, he's serviceable, but for a number 2 pick, is that what you're looking for? We'll wait and see. I think he can definitely get closer to his ceiling, though. I think he's damn good. Moving over to number 2, I got Jordan Tyson, the receiver from Arizona State. So as you guys know, I've been on the Jordan Tyson hype train for a while. I think Jordan Tyson is a excellent football prospect. The problem is he's got a lot of health concerns on his name. But you look at the size, you look at the production, 6'2", 203 pounds. This year, despite being banged up, still 61 receptions for 711 yards, 8 touchdowns, 11.7 average. Last year, he got over 1,000 yards. He's one of the most nuanced route runners in this class. Especially for an outside wide receiver like a Skylar Bell, those sort of guys. They're nuanced route runners, but they usually play from within the slot. Jordan Tyson is going to be moved all across the line, whether it is from the slot, from the outside, wherever. He's very nuanced as a route runner. He understands leverage, excellent sideline catcher, good athleticism, the ability to change directions just on a snap. I mean, he's the total package as a receiver, right? I mean, he gives you major vibes of the modern day weapons, the Jackson Smith and Jigbas, the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chase. I'm not saying he's there, but I'm saying that his play style's of the vein of those guys. The problem is he can't stay healthy. And you know what the old saying goes, the best ability is availability. And if you're not available, then you're not worth a first round pick. Point blank simple. But if he is healthy, you're talking about a guy that could be a top receiver in this league. He can be a number one option. Like undoubtedly, he can be a number one option. But will his body hold up? The NFL game is a physical, just such a demanding sport. So is college, but the NFL it's another level to it, right? It's 17 games. It's multiple games in the playoffs if you get there. You're going up against grown men, 30, 20, late 20, 30-year-old dudes who've packed on years of just weight and knee injuries just all over his body. Shoulder, I believe he had something with that. And now you're saying, okay, now go do it for a 17-plus game sample size in the NFL. I don't know, man. Very risky. It's very risky, but the prize here is a potential top wide receiver in the league. Like, that's the prize here. And if that's what the prize is, he might end up being fully worth a potential top 15 pick investment. So we'll wait and see, man. I'm so excited to see what he does in the NFL level. I pray he's able to stay healthy. But moving over to our last player is Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback for the Indiana Hoosiers, or should I say the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, man, I have Fernando Mendoza as my boomer bust player. And it's basically because he's the number one pick, right? And the expectations with the number one pick are so very, very high. And if you're drafted number one, your expectations are to be a top 15 quarterback in the league. And so that's why he's in this conversation. As a prospect, I think he's a pretty safe prospect, if I'm being honest with you. Like, of this list, he's the safest prospect. It just comes down to the fact that you're going to be the number one pick. You're going to be the number one pick, right? So for me, I think Fernando's going to be a top 20 quarterback. I have no doubt about it. I think he'll be able to develop his game. Indiana ran an RPO, screen heavy, first read type of system where he didn't have to go through his progressions every single snap. That's the whole buzz around the Ty Simpson conversation where Simpson has to go through his progressions. You don't see that as much for Fernando Mendoza, but I still think, like, in Las Vegas with that system, with Brock Bowers, Genty, he should be totally fine. But you're the number one pick. The expectations are to be a top 15, top 12 quarterback in the league. People were calling Trevor Lawrence a bust after like 2 bad years or 2 kind of meddling years. People are already calling Bryce Young a bust. Hell, people are calling CJ Stroud a bust, and he was drafted number 2. And he's led to the Houston Texans to 3 straight playoff seasons. So, like, you're telling me that Fernando's in a situation where he has to outplay Trevor Lawrence through most of his young careers. He's got to outplay Bryce. He's got to outplay CJ. He's got to outplay all these other guys, or else he might get termed as a bust, right? And that's just kind of consensus-wise amongst the community. Now, I personally will kind of push back on that conversation. Like, if Fernando ends up being a top 20 player in this league, and is considered kind of that tier 2, tier 3 quarterback, I think it's worth the investment at number 1. But that might just be kind of a my opinion sort of ordeal. We'll wait and see what other people think of him. But yeah, he's a boomer bust because he is going to be the number 1 pick. And Raiders fans are going to have the expectations of this guy being the savior. And if he's not the savior, if he's not the guy, even if he is just a good quarterback, like if he's a little bit less than prime Kirk Cousins type of guy, I feel like there's going to be some people that think he's kind of a bust. So, hell, Jared Goff was getting bust conversations a few years into his career. So we'll see, man. It's very fascinating. I'm so excited to see Fernando Mendoza play at the NFL level, but we'll have to wait and see. But you guys let me know some of your other boomer bust players in this year's draft class. And do you agree or disagree with my list? Let me know in the comment section below. Hit that like and subscribe button. And I love you guys. Peace.